Hello, welcome to Shoot the Defense. I'm your host, Stel, and my co-hosts are, as ever, Rhodri Giggs and Steve Eyre. I added an extra S to your surname there, Rod, just for, you know. How you doing, Rod? Have you frozen?
Yeah, I'm good.
Or are you just doing your Madam
No, no,
Tussauds
no, I'm
impression?
good. No,
They ain't gonna
laughing.
build a waxwork of you, mate. Relax.
I'm just laughing at you. No, I'm good.
Laughing at me. What's
Good,
new?
good,
Well, Yan isn't here
good,
anymore.
day, good, good day of football. Yeah, it's right.
Was it? Really?
Some good results. Some good results. It's not really good games, but good results. So.
Fucking dog shit football, mate. That's a dog shit.
Yeah,
Oh, well.
yeah,
It was worse
yeah.
yesterday, to be fair, so.
That's
Yeah.
why I have been watching the NFL.
There you go.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I don't know much about that sport, so sorry. Move on.
Yeah.
Steve, how you doing?
Even though.
Evening, Stel. You okay?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. How's your weekend?
Okay, yeah. I went watching Bolton Wanderers away yesterday at Walsall. My friend is the manager, and I did a little bit of commentary for the iFollow and the local radio station. So combined, it was a bit of a day out with the travel, and I was back for the Boarfest of the Manchester Derby, which we kind of had a feeling might be the case, but we all fall for the fact that it hopefully will be a thriller and one of our teams would win, but it was not to be. Obviously, it was almost like a handshake before the game, and everyone settled for a point and a clean sheet. It was shocking, wasn't it?
A handshake and a cuddle at full time.
Oh, not good. Don't go there with that. Yeah,
we'll talk about that in a bit. Now we've got a returning guest. He's from the Two Rash Challenges Podcast. It's Eric Neal. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, thanks, man. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to have you back on. And I hear congratulations are in order because a certain Columbus Crew won the MLS Cup at the weekend, didn't they?
Yeah, you're always hearing support your local. I'm a season ticket holder for our local Major League Soccer franchise, Columbus Crew, and they beat the reigning champions, Seattle Sounders, 3-0 convincingly last night. So, yeah, it was a nice one. One of our contributors actually stayed up there in the UK and watched it. So, huge respect to Andrew Wells for that because it had to be the middle of the night there. It started late here.
Mm. So let me get this straight. Is this the end of MLS season now? Was that the?
That's it.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah. So, and Seattle won it. Seattle have won it like 2 out of 3 years, haven't they, or something like that?
Yeah, they have, and they've been in like 5 finals. They're almost always there, and it's very similar to if it was the championship, where you have the tournament at the end. Instead of getting promoted, you just win the cup. But they have a separate thing. I don't know why they do it, called the Supporters Shield, where whoever has the most points at the end of the season, where normally you would just be champion, you get a separate trophy for that. But we have a playoff system where almost every single team qualifies for the playoff, and then you go through many rounds. Very American.
Well, the thing is, it's quite interesting with Columbus, because not too long ago, it was all about save the crew, wasn't it? Save the academy. And majority of those players that won the MLS Cup broke through the academy, which is insane, given the limited resources that the club have had in comparison to others.
No, right. We broke our transfer record this last offseason for Lucas Celerán, Argentinian player. Was playing, I want to say, for Tigres in Liga MX in Mexico. And quality player. But if you look, I think it was $7 million, which what's like £4.5 million or something like that. So if you imagine the quality difference or what we're dealing with, you can't. I don't even think you could buy a 16-year-old kid in England for £4.5 million anymore. But it made all the difference. We were going to be sold. We got bought by an out-of-state owner who didn't really invest much in the team, and then was going to move us out of state to Texas. And the supporters banded together, kept the team in town. We got an NFL owner to be part owner and spend some actual money, and there you go. We won the cup.
Well, last season wasn't great for you guys, was it? So it's been an amazing turnaround.
Right, but we have a really good manager. He won with Portland actually against Columbus Crew 2015 in the final, but he had a very good career as a college manager, and then has been very successful in MLS. So that part was really good. I think that's what helped turn us around. He came in, the United States national team manager, Greg Berhalter, who, if you ever listen to our show,
You
We cannot stand the guy. Worst ever. Was the Crew manager before. Left a bit of a mess, but we've turned it around.
Brilliant. Long may it continue, mate. Long may it continue.
Hey, thanks.
Excellent. All right, let's talk about the Premier League. And well, let's begin with your team, Eric. Newcastle United. Good win against West Brom. A lot of players were unavailable due to COVID, but your big boys, Almiron, I use that term loosely because he's not very big, is he? Callum Wilson started, but it was Dwight Gale who scored the winner against his former club.
Yeah.
Tell us about the game itself, my friend.
So I wanted to ask you about this when you asked me to come on. If you're on Newcastle Twitter all the time, people are just like apoplectic about every single match, even when we get a result, because for some reason, pundits all over the country, they keep coming up with this agenda against Newcastle supporters saying, oh, they should be happy for what they get. Bruce is getting these amazing results. Why do they think they deserve more than this? But they obviously don't watch the football, because even in that match, we scored after 22 seconds and then let them back in, played some just really, really unattractive, horrible football for, another 50, 60, 70 minutes. And then at the end, credit to Bruce, brought in, 3 attacking subs to try and get the lead back. And Gale, who I actually really rate, a lot of people say that he's not a Premier League player. He's more fit for the Championship. I think he's quality. When he links up well with Wilson up front, and again, it was one of those where if you just look at the result, you say, hey, 2 wins in a row. They're doing great. Bruce, great manager. But if you watch the football just every week, they just really have no idea what they're doing going forward. It makes it really frustrating. And then, for people that just look at results, you say, you're in 12th place. Not bad. Doing better than when Rafa was there. Not bad. Look at the results. But the football, man, it's just hard to watch.
So, Eric, before I put the question over to Stephen Rod, what are your expectations as a Newcastle United fan? Because I've had this discussion with several Newcastle United fans in the past, and I said to them, look, you're a big club. Granted, you're the only club in a big catchment, but historically, you haven't won that many trophies. You don't really challenge for the league title. You don't really challenge for European places. So what is it that you guys expect from any manager that comes into the club, especially given the guy you have owning the club?
No, I mean, that's completely fair. Although, if you look, money has been spent. And the players that we've brought in, if you look at Fraser and Wilson, just alone, those 2, very good players. And the issue is not, I mean, you always hear this from Newcastle supporters. We don't demand a team that wins. We demand a team that tries. And to the players' credit this year, they really have. But I always have this joke with people, on Twitter right before when they set out the lineup for the match each week, and we try and figure out what formations it's going to be. And then you watch the match and you still can't tell. They'll put up there, okay, it's 4-2-3-1, and then you're looking at it and you're thinking, I can't really see it. And so I think what we want is we want a team that has some sort of idea. If you look at Leeds and what Bielsa's been able to do with them, that's Leeds. Even if you took him off the sideline and put a different uniform on all the players and you watch them play, you would right away, you'd be able to recognize, oh, that's Leeds. They have a style of play, and they have something that they're trying to do. With Bruce, it really looks like you're in Grassroots or something like that, and your friend just called everyone over and just drew a circle in the dirt and said, all right, you run out wide, you go down the middle, I'll drop back and play, in the 6 role. Like it just looks disjointed, and it makes it really frustrating. They're organized at the back, and we don't leak a lot of goals, which is great, but there's just nothing in it. There's no inspiration. There's no, feeling of they know what they're trying to do. They run up fast with Almiron or Fraser if he's in, or someone, and then they get to the 18, they all look at each other like, what's next? What are we supposed to do?
Oh, fair enough. That's a good point. Steve, we try to avoid cliches on this podcast, and if people want to put cliches, and they can go on ESPN and they can go on any other podcast, but we tell it like it is. And, we've praised Steve Bruce over the past couple of years, given the job that he's done at Newcastle, because of the resources, because of the teams that have been above and below him. what do you make of what Eric has said? And what are your honest opinions on Steve Bruce?
Obviously, a very honest English manager. He's stacked with experience now, and he's got an opportunity to manage one of the biggest clubs in England. And even though they're not in the top 4 or the top 6 ever or at all these days, they're still one of the biggest supporters in England, one of the biggest football clubs in England. The fan base is superb, and obviously their budget is competitive compared to many in the Premier League, where they always seem to be able to buy strikers, overpay for them, granted, from all over the world. But the managers do get help from the supporters and from the board, I believe, compared to others. If just Sean Dyche tonight winning at Arsenal, he's never really in a position to spend as much on strikers as somebody like Newcastle United. And what I think Steve Bruce has done, he's tried to improve the identity of the team. He's tried to have maverick players. He's tried to include Almiron. But never going to get away from the fact there's a dozen better teams in the Premier League. Now, that's not a disgrace. And I think the Newcastle fans, obviously, though they have, it's not delusional by any means, but they have ambitions of greater things. But I actually don't believe that the spot they're in, they can do any better than what they're doing at the moment. They're competitive in every game. They're quick up front with Wilson. They got the best relegated striker. And very much refreshing in terms of they're not good enough to play around the 18-yard box of the other team and tip-tap around and wait to score the perfect goal, possibly like Manchester City, a Barcelona type goal of years gone by. So it is quite refreshing that they do have a bit of size up front. They're willing to sling the ball in the box. They're willing to compete for every ball. And in John Joe Shelby, you're capable of scoring from a set play. So there's still a lot to like, as well as obviously a goalkeeper that's playing well for them this year. I think they're just all right. Now, for me as a neutral, I'm comfortable with that, but I always get the feeling the Newcastle United supporters, feel they should be doing better. I actually don't.
Do you think it's because of the Kevin Keegan era, Steve, where they came very, very close to winning the title? They got to a couple of FA Cup finals. They lost to Arsenal in the final. They lost to Man United under different managers, Dalglish and Keegan. But did that give them kind of a false sense of hope?
Maybe. And that middle ground can be dangerous, Stel, in terms of how you process your mind and your thoughts and your ambitions. I wouldn't wish this on them, but they might need to go near the bottom of the league, like Brighton and Burnley and West Brom, and hover around those bottom spots to recognise that when they are in those mid-table places, it's actually pretty good. But when they're in there for a large period, like they are at the moment, I don't think there's like apathy. I don't think they're bored. But I just think, like I say, there's just over-ambition from the supporters, which piles the pressure onto the manager. I think he handles it really, really well. So that middle ground is safer in terms of league position, but it can just create the wrong feel and the wrong vibe. Maybe if they lost a few games on the trot and slid down the table, they'd recognise and respect how good they are doing in the place they are at the moment in the table.
That's a fair point. Rod, you're a fan of Steve Bruce's. Beginning of the last season when he got the job, we were tipping them to go down. He proved us wrong. This season, similar sort of thing. Now, going back to what I said about the Kevin Keegan days and getting to FA Cup finals and whatnot, when you see Leicester winning the Premier League title, granted, it was a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing, I think it would be fair for Newcastle fans to feel, well, why can't it be us? We are arguably a bigger club with more resources. Do you see where Steve's coming from as well?
Yeah, it's just like I was just going to say to him, there's nothing really more that can add what Spez has said. It'd just be to try making stuff up just for the sake of it. There's nothing more that you can add on to what he said. That they should enjoy the moment where they are now, just like he says, because if they're round the bottom, they have been a yo-yo side, and it's just difficult. Leicester, they've won the Premier League. They took their chance. Newcastle didn't. That's just the difference between the two clubs. Leicester faltered at the end, but they held on. Newcastle faltered at the end, but they didn't hold on. It's just that's the short and curlies of it. So, unless they have recruited better, yes, Newcastle recruited well of late, but it takes time to build a team like Leicester. There's a lot of players in there that have won the league. And there's a lot of new players there that are young, exciting, i.e. Madison with his 2 goals today. You know, there's another bit of youth sprinkled across the team that's good and exciting. So, yeah, I think so. Even though I know you're comparing, it's just that, you know, it's totally teams have come from different places. Where Newcastle are fighting relegation, Leicester have gone from fighting relegation to winning the league to just being comfortable, and now to being in the top 6. So, you know, Newcastle are way off that yet, but they're on the right track. And, you know, it's just baby steps, and you've got to just trust the manager. Hopefully, he can bring in quality again, like Wilson and Fraser. You know, they're difficult to find, but it's just got, like I say, it's got the baby steps. But the Newcastle fans should be happy where they are now, because even though they are a big club, like Stel says, what they won. They've not won anything in 50 years.
Well, I think there's a massive snowball effect that's occurred at Newcastle United over the years. Clearly, Mike Ashley isn't the guy that they want managing the club or owning the club. There was the rumours about the Saudis. They got excited about that, which is understandable because, you know, that kind of money, you can bring in players, you can improve the academy, even though it is a thriving academy. But then when you look at past 10 years, for example, where you've seen the likes of Swansea City winning silverware, where you've seen Wigan Athletic winning the FA Cup, I can kind of see the frustration from the Newcastle United fans, because they're looking at these clubs who are smaller than them winning silverware, yet they're still waiting for that. Eric, do you think if Mike...
Just 1 minute, just put into like, go back to what I said, like Newcastle have been in the cup finals, they've had the chance. Wigan got in the cup final and they took their chance, even though it was like the Alamo against City. They still got the win and took the chance. Newcastle had them moments and not taken them chances.
I think that's the misconception, is that it's not even about winning something. Newcastle, and you don't even have to go back to the entertainers to be thinking about, like, looking at something where they had a season that I think the majority of Newcastle supporters would be happy with, and they didn't win anything. If you look at Pardue getting 5th in the Premier League, and then we made it to, I want to say it was the quarterfinals of the Europa League the following season, and people were very happy with that type of result. And it wasn't even necessarily about getting 5th. It was the way that they played. You know, when you look and you had players like Ben Arfa and Kabaye and Demba Ba and Papa Cisse, and like all of these, like the way that they played, even when they lost, you walked away from that feeling like you didn't waste a Saturday, because it wasn't about the result. Is that you knew you were going to show up and you were going to see a team that looked good and was actually trying to accomplish something. And now you show up, great, you get the result, but you sat there and suffered through, 80 of the 90 minutes. It's really not about at all winning a cup or winning anything. It's about just having something to look forward to, because you work hard all week, you sit down to watch your team, and then they shithouse their way to a result, and everyone's like, oh, look, you got a result, but you're the one that had to suffer through watching the football. I mean, watch a whole Newcastle match, and I don't care who it's against, top team, bottom team, you will not leave that feeling inspired like you had a good use of your time. I'm
not gonna lie, I watched that Crystal Palace game, and yeah, it was horrible.
Diabolical.
But you got the win. You got the win.
You can separate results and performances. They're two separate things, right? And you can be happy with one. I can be happy with 3 points and still not very happy with the performance.
So let's just end it with this one. If the performance is improved, okay, and you ended up 5th from bottom, would you take that over top 10 but with shit football?
Yeah, absolutely, because you don't get anything for top 10. People say, oh, wow, look, you finished in the top 10. That's great. But you still have to watch the bad football. Look, we've been relegated twice in the past, 10 years. So we do know what it's like to suffer the consequences and spend a year in the championship. Came back up right away both times, which, I mean, all you have to do is look at Sunderland to realize that there's no guarantees with that. But I would happily take 15th and like being able to enjoy watching every match than being top 10 and having it how it is now.
Fair enough. I guess Newcastle, it's like you don't know the right question because you won't know the answer either. It's one of those things.
Right.
There you go. There you go.
You
Right.
know, some fans have an identity how they want to play, and obviously Newcastle have that exciting identity. It's the same with United when Jose was there. When Jose was getting them boring results, oh, he's not playing United way, blah blah blah, but he's still getting the results. You know, it's just getting that balance, and obviously, you know, the Newcastle have had exciting times in the past, and you know, they just obviously crave for them again. But you know,
Yeah, but Rod, before Kevin Keegan rolled into town, when were Newcastle ever entertaining? When this whole rhetoric about them being the entertainers was only under the Kevin Keegan era. They absolutely smashed Division 1 when Andy Cole was banging in goals. Then they came to the Premier League. He scored 42 goals in the season, and then they built on that, and then they came second. But that was really the only time when they were really entertaining. I don't remember Newcastle before that.
But it's quite vivid in people's memories, and they were a good team to watch.
Okay, but they still won nothing, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to another boring game, the Manchester Derby. Let's get this one out of the way because I watched it. I went to put the washing machine on. I did the washing. Then I put the tumble dryer on. I came back and it was still 0-0. And then there was an incident with Rashford where he was offside, but then the referee gave a penalty. Then he changed his mind and whatnot. Nothing really to report in terms of a performance, Steve. United's system, I couldn't quite work it out. I don't know whether it was a 4-4-2 diamond. I don't know whether it was a 4-3-3 with Bruno Fernandes as a false nine with Rashford and Greenwood on the flanks. For me, it just looked like United were trying to hit City on the counter-attack, and for some reason they were using the channels when Kyle Walker is absolutely rapid. City, on the other hand, seemed a bit laboured. Lack of ideas up front. Jesus was isolated, didn't really do much. De Bruyne was limited. It was a poor game overall, wasn't it?
It was. I won't steal Rodri's thunder. I'll let him cover United. Obviously, I was watching it, you know, through Manchester City eyes as always. Through the week, I said to a few people, I think it could be 0-0. And then just closer to kick-off, I got whipped up with the occasion, not being there, but the thought of it and thinking, no, I think we can win here today.
You were going to say 5-1 or 6-1, weren't you?
No, none of that. I actually did think we could win 2-0, but very quickly into the game, I realised it wasn't even an arm wrestle. You know, there wasn't like loads of collisions. There wasn't like loads of combat all over the pitch. It was almost like a truce. I think you got the shape right of United. Certainly the two young lads, Rashford, young man, and Greenwood in the channels, trying to get away in the channels where the space is, but also to stop City getting out at fullback. Fernandes, call it a false number 9, number 10 position. I don't think that's his best position, but I'm not a United fan. I think his best position is when he ends up in that position from a number 8, from deeper, from 10 yards further back. But once United, every time they've played him up there, straight away he gets marked. Straight away you're facing the wrong way and you're already in and not moving. He's better off arriving in the number 10 position on the move from 5-10 yards further back and becoming 8 to 10, not just being the number 10. I don't think United get anything out of him in that role. But back to City, I'm concerned. I think there's something not right for sure. The clean sheets have gone amiss. In terms, well, John Stones let everybody know at full time, which was good, but I think it's 9 out of 11 clean sheets. I think they just equaled 6 on the trot. So you go into every game, that's the first thing the manager says, you know, before anything else, keep a clean sheet. So one side of the street is really clean for Manchester City. They're obviously missing one of the best strikers of all time, who actually wasn't in the party yesterday. I'm suspicious. I am suspicious. He doesn't always play at Old Trafford, but he was just got back to the squad in midweek. In a Champions League game, he'd come on and sniffs a goal out in the 6-yard box that nobody else could have, and he did. And the 50-50 call was he going to play Saturday or would he be subbed? Now, he wasn't even there at all. Now, there was a party line at first which said he was ill, and then there was another one that said it was tactical. So two sets of people at Manchester City, whether it be the media or the manager, one of them's got it wrong, or one of them's not telling the truth. Makes me feel suspicious about the Sergio Aguero absence. I can imagine he was expecting to start in the game and possibly wasn't picked, and you can draw your own conclusions from that. I want to bring your attention to something that I saw as well, which I didn't like. My favourite footballer, Kevin De Bruyne, I thought there was impatience, not in his play, but in his body language. I saw twice, and then it was a 50-50 call, where it's actually 3 times that he was so disappointed that nobody got on the end of one of his amazing passes forward that he actually turned his back on the game, as though he was cursing to himself, mumbling almost 360 degrees in disgust, which is so out of character. At once, I think Raheem Sterling even chased the ball to the corner flag and it stayed in play. And Kevin De Bruyne was like a little bit petulant and had to return his face back to the game to then run into the box. So it's one to look out for. But I noticed there's no senior players in the Manchester City team now above Kevin De Bruyne. He is the senior player. And I just think that his football behaviour, which has been impeccable and is largely, I spotted something I didn't like, and I'm going to keep my eye on, and I'm hoping I'm going to be wrong on it. But he looked very much synonymous with what's going on at City at the moment. The manager's slumped in the chair. I'm tempted to say that I only see him coaching on the touchline hard when we're winning. The moment City are drawing, which is obviously from the start of the game, or they're losing, he seems to sit down and slump. We can all stand there when we're winning. So I've got my eye on that.
New contract then, Steve? If
he's signed a new contract. He signed a new contract, but he was forever bringing John Stones over for a cuddle. He was forever coaching him. He was forever trying to grab Raheem Sterling, walking off the pitch at half-time for the cameras. And everyone was saying, oh, look at him. He never stops coaching. You've got 15 minutes in the dressing room to do that. But he always grabbed Sterling to walk off the pitch. And he was always on a connection with Kevin De Bruyne with thumbs up and waves as though we're on the same page. Maybe they are. I hope to God they are. But it just looks like it all dropped. All the images dropped. Stones doesn't get any cuddling anymore. He's actually playing better for it. Sterling doesn't come off at half-time with the manager's arm around his shoulder in front of the cameras. And De Bruyne looks a little bit moody for the first time in his City career. We're not scoring as many goals. We don't know what's going on with Aguero. And we keep thinking that Jesus could be the man to step up and be elite. And he's probably just short. So I'm absolutely still hopeful for the club, but I don't recognise much potential from where they were. And any noise about them, the players looking bored, they're nowhere near the team that they were 2 years ago. For me, it's obvious, and I totally agree.
Brilliant. Rod, I was talking to Semps earlier, and he was saying that, both sides were there for the taking, but it almost as if none of them wanted to win the game. I agree with him in that respect. It's almost as if they were too scared to lose the game, even though the systems didn't really show that. In terms of the match itself, mate, disappointing, laboured, could have been doing something else, like you're washing, I guess.
It was both cancelled each other out really more. You'd be more upset if he's a City fan because, United were there for taking. The record's not great at Old Trafford, they're conceding early goals. And they just seem to sit off them and not really, United were quite comfortable first half, and even though they didn't really create anything, City didn't really either. So that was surprising. And City really do miss that Aguero, because when you miss someone, Jesus is a good player, but he's not Sergio Aguero. And when you, like Stel says in the week, when you got a player like who sniffs goals out, it was just gold dust, and they did miss him. But yeah, it was definitely a missed opportunity for City, because United had a tough week, and like I say, the record's not great and the goals were conceded. But it was a good point for us to the end.
There's two things that bothered me most about this game, and it happened at full time. I saw Michael Carrick and Pep Guardiola cuddling each other, talking about this and that. If you're going to do that, off camera. And then John Stones and Harry Maguire in an embrace. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on here? The combined value of these guys is £130 million, and they're both shit. And yet they're doing that on the pitch after a derby game. When did that ever happen in a Manchester derby? When? And they're not even foreign players, so we can't say, it's the foreigners.
Yeah, it's just different breeds now. Played football for 20 years. I've probably got one friend from football. I didn't go to play football to make friends. I just went there to win football matches, and they're just a different breed now. They're all pally. They all follow each other on Twitter and Instagram. That hugging session at the end, it's just it's just changed. This is why football's not the same anymore. It's just not. It's VAR, everything else. It's just changing. And the modern day player, they like a good cuddle at the end, good cuddle at the start as well. So yeah, for City, I'm pretty sure that wouldn't have been the case if there was a crowd. But it's been a bit more hostile, a bit more noise. I don't think there was that much. It was just embarrassing at the end. It wasn't even like a hug. It was like a cuddle.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was not good all round. It wasn't a good advert for the Premier League and for Manchester derby anyway.
Kind of reminded me of Cilla Black's Surprise, when you see the long lost brother and they haven't seen each other for 20 years and it's that cuddle, that's what it reminded me of. Steve, you coached City's youth cup winning side in 2008 with Sturridge and Trippier, etc. That wouldn't have happened with you as head coach, would it?
Well, Alex Gibson was the senior head coach, I believe the best of his generation, and Jim Cassell sat above that as running the academy. And we were smiling assassins, really. We was like, get your retaliation in first, stand on people's hands, do whatever it takes to win, be friends afterwards, like Rhodri suggested there. And we were lucky we had good players, so I won't suggest we had our own way all the time, but we recognised with that group of players that we could win games often and pretty much always in our own style. But we'd do anything to win. We would do anything to win. But, you'd play Man United at Carrington on a Saturday morning, Liverpool, Everton. You were telling lads, these talented footballers how to play, how to pass. But you were also making sure that they weren't wearing moulded football boots and they all had studs on. Now, that's not all fast. Just stuff like that. We were reminding them of what it was. What the game was and what it meant. This is at under 18 level, and you've got to instill that into people and create a personality in them, that they've got their own personality, but you make them appreciate what winning is and what losing isn't. And that's why now, Stel, people suggest, coaches that I speak to, they say there's no leaders anymore. There's no captains anymore. It's everywhere. Every manager says it. Oh, everybody's frightened of falling out with each other. Nobody says anything. There's no leaders and captains. And I blame the academy system, not wholly, but largely, because if you've got a set of coaches that don't emphasise winning and development equally, they're both the same. Development and winning are equal. And then there are some that have took it over now and say it's all about development. Results aren't important. Winning doesn't matter. Well, if you're going to instill that to a young boy at 9 for 10 years and tell him hard lines, unlucky, try again next week, and then he becomes a first team player at 20, but for 10 and 11 years, winning hasn't been important, how can that boy be anything other than soft and carefree? And we're seeing it across the game. We're seeing it across our country, our nation. And that's why when we see a leader now, maybe even like this Calvin Phillips at Leeds, young Tommy Doyle, who's not broke in at Manchester City yet, but they love firing in, tackling, competing, getting in someone's face. And actually, as it happens, they're two very, very good footballers. And there are more. But there are so many now of these talented young academy players who come through the system. They end up in the Premier League. They end up playing for England, but they're absolutely soft as anything you want to say. And it's largely because they've come through an academy system where winning hasn't been an emphasis. And that's what we're stuck with, Stel.
I love it. Absolutely love it. He hit it around the head as well, as far as I'm concerned. I agree. Well, totally.
And it was just two lads there that they deserve their place in the Premier League. They deserve their place at big clubs, Manchester City, Manchester United, and they deserve England caps and World Cups, John Stones and Harry Maguire. I believe there are better players around them now. There's more competition for them. They deserve their place. So I don't want to fully criticise, but the hug, the cuddle, just looked like absolute relief. I messaged Rhodri last night. It was as like, all right, thank God neither of us have lost. Thank God neither of us have conceded a goal. Oh, I love you, you love me. It looked nonsense, but it just looked two lads who feel like they've been through the shredder and they've come through it in 90 minutes. And it just looked like relief as opposed to a competitive, healthy friendship. And this hand behind over the mouth, if that was me, I mean, I've not been in that position, modern day, at that level. I've not been there. But if someone wanted to chat to me on camera and I had to then put my hand over my mouth to do it, I'd just carry on talking without the hand over my mouth. I wouldn't care what lip readers heard me or, well, obviously recognise what I was saying. But more importantly, I'd say, I'll chat to you inside, because I don't want to be seen on camera after a battle with my hand over my mouth, having a cocktail talk with an opponent. I just don't want to be doing it, and I don't want to be seen doing it. I think it's absolute nonsense.
Fantastic. Eric, Tottenham Hotspur, they drew against Crystal Palace today. I know you're a big Jose Mourinho fan. They were a goal up, and then Palace levelled it with, 20 minutes ago, something along those lines. And then it was back to the wall. But Greater, who made a massive cock-up for Harry Kane's goal, effectively gave Crystal Palace a point with 3 superb saves, one of them point-blank range from Harry Kane's header.
Yeah, the keeper had a blinder, man. I feel like Jose did everything right. I feel like they played well enough to win and get all 3 points. Palace are actually a very stubborn opponent. I mean, especially the last couple seasons. Traditionally, you feel like if you're one of the top 5 or 6 clubs, that you should be able to roll them over anytime you want. But since Hodgson's been there, they've been very organized. If Zaha's playing well, they have a chance to get something out of every match. And I think it just came back to bite them the way that Mourinho plays. If he has a 1-0 lead and you're getting to the 60th or 70th minute, he's really just thinking about shutting up shop and going to rely on his people doing what they're supposed to do. And I mean, I don't think he would do anything different if you went back to before they leveled it and said, hey, think about it really. What, is it too early to try and just, preserve the 1-0? I think he would just do the same thing again, because he just knows the way that he wants to play, and they're going to play that way. I mean, personally, I don't care if Spurs win or not. I mean, for me, it's as long as it's not Liverpool, I'm happy. I don't care. But I appreciate that what you're going to get with him. And I don't think at the end of the day he was really that bothered. I think he would do it again.
Well, they got a draw against Crystal Palace last season at Selhurst Park on the final day, which got into the Europa League, but the circumstances are much different now, Rod. Liverpool drew against Fulham, which obviously Spurs would have breathed a huge sigh of relief. But Liverpool your mate Scotty Thingy, yeah, there you go. Listen, it was a good result for Fulham. I think they were quite unlucky not to come away with the points. But then again, second half, especially last half an hour, it was the Alamo, wasn't it, with Liverpool?
It's the first time I've really watched Fulham, and I was really impressed. I didn't really know they had that Lamela. They've got some decent players there, some decent footballers, and they did play him off the park. You'd expect Liverpool to come back into it. You're not going to play that bad for 2 halves. But Fulham, fully deserved, if not the full 3 points. The penalty was, all right, it's a penalty, but it's soft. But in today's world, it is a penalty. He should have kept his hands down. I don't know why these David De Gea did it in the week. They turned the back, or maybe they teach them that in the academies as well. So, but it was a good performance. And Fulham, if they play like that, they've got a chance, because seeing it was better entertaining. There's worse teams anyway. They were entertaining. They were good to watch. They knock it about. They play good football. You just need to get a goal scorer who's going to score 15, 20 goals, and they're hard to find.
It's not a nice ground to go to, is it, Craven Cottage? The pitch is quite bobbly. The ground is quite small, and I think Fulham just went for the jugular from the off, because they thought, we've got nothing to lose here. People written us off. Let's just go for it.
They had a crowd too, which helps. Like you said, it's a tight ground. I was telling my son before when I was watching it, it's one of the only grounds I've really not been to, Craven Cottage, even though when I lived in London, I never even went there. So, yeah, it's tight ground, and even though 2,000, you heard it at Crystal Palace, they can make some noise in these tight grounds, and we've got to take advantage of that, because these teams we've talked about, it says on before that Sheffield United have missed it. It's like their 12th man, so it's important to have these fans back in the ground, because these teams like Fulham, they need all the help they can get.
should Fulham have had a penalty before getting a goal up because there was a challenge in the box made by Fabinho? I know Liverpool fans will say that there was a push in the build-up to it, but to me, it looked like he went right through the player. Granted, he got the ball, but under the law or the new laws, that should have been a penalty, no?
Graham Souness explained it perfectly. He's gone to stand his foot down, and he's clipped his foot. So he can't hit the ball unless he goes through his foot. So it's a clear penalty, but you can only see it on that one angle. It took them 3 or 4 minutes, so they should get the right decision, and then they still get it wrong. So yes, probably they should have got should have got that penalty, but it would have made it 1-0, and who knows if they would have scored a second. And Liverpool were probably deserved a point with the last 30 minutes, like you said, because it was like the Alamo.
Steve, when Fulham scored the opener, there was a little push on Mo Salah, wasn't there? I'm quite surprised that wasn't given, because I know last season when United played Liverpool, there's a foul in the build-up to Rashford's goal at Old Trafford, and that one wasn't stopped or wasn't disallowed. I thought they were going to disallow that one. Do you think that maybe they let that one slide because they got the penalty decision wrong?
I've not thought of that, Stel, but I can go with that. But I actually think, like you can do when you get contact, I thought Salah made too much of a delayed milt reaction to the push in the back. You're hoping, especially if you're Mo Salah and you're on the D of your own box, you're hoping someone fouls you. Really, you're hoping so. But I think he milked it a little bit, and I don't think that it convinced the referee at all. You'll see it back later. The initial push in the back was enough to make me think, yeah, it could have been a foul. But then there was just this body shake from Salah that made it look theatrical and not effective for me. And I think the referee just played on. The shot came to nothing, didn't it? But at the same time, it didn't look great for Salah. It's not one of his better moments. Obviously, he had a better moment later in the game, but I thought the image of it wasn't great still, and certainly not convincing.
Gentlemen, I'll put this to all three of you, actually. Jota apparently is out between 6 to 8 weeks. I don't know how true that is, which is a massive blow for him because he's been a revelation since joining them from Wolverhampton Wanderers. Eric, I know Dave is a big Liverpool fan, your co-host, and I'm sure he's kicking himself. He'll probably get injured by doing that, to be honest, so tell him not to. But right. It is a huge loss for Liverpool. I know Thiago's coming back to full fitness soon, but Jota has been absolutely immense for him so far, hasn't he?
Yeah, he and I have actually talked about this because I was giving them a lot of banter when they missed out on signing Timo Werner, when it looked like the owners were being cheap and they didn't want to spend any money and improve the team. And we both think now that they've come out on the better end by getting Jota instead of Werner. I mean, they're both very good players, and I'm not saying Werner, won't come good or reach his full potential, but like Jota on that team, he was very good at Wolves. So all of a sudden now you drop him in where everybody around you is great and into a system that really plays to your talents. And I mean, I think it's been probably the signing of the season.
No, I agree with you, mate. And Rod, Jota, 6 to 8 weeks. It's a hell of a long time.
Yeah, for me, it was the signing of the season because it was one out of left field. No one really seen it coming, and he's been a revelation for them because he does what Firmino does, but he's adding goals to that as well. And to miss him for 2 months it's great for us, but it's a massive blow for Liverpool.
Steve, I presume Shaqiri and Origi are going to get back into the team now. They were shunned a few weeks ago, but now Jurgen Klopp is probably on his knees saying, "Please, I need you to play." Oh, Steve, I think you're.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, Jota's been great. His numbers are superb, but he did miss the last Premier League game, which allowed Firmino to come back into the team. If you just take away that Jota, isn't there now and wasn't there before, Liverpool have to go back to where they were. They were all conquering. So I don't think it affects them too much because they had the bonus of signing like an old Liverpool team in the late 70s. Just keep signing one player when you're going well. That's what they used to do. Just when they'd won a league, they'd just sign one more each season. So it was that mantra, really. But interesting now, the influence of the man of the match today, Curtis Jones. So without the rotation now, which was going to happen, I think, between Firmino and Jota, then Firmino should get a full run in the side now, as he's had before. You can't see Salah and Mane being rotated. And you've got the up-and-coming Curtis Jones. I don't think Liverpool will miss Jota as much as people think. They'll miss his goals. They'll miss the fact that they can't call on him for rotation and his brilliance. But like I say, if they have to go back where they were with Firmino and you get the improving Jones, I don't see it being that much of a void for Liverpool.
Brilliant. Rod, let's talk about the derby in the Midlands between Wolves and Aston Villa. I didn't watch too much of the game, but I know there were 10 yellow cards and a red card. There was more passion involved in that game than the Manchester derby. Good victory for Aston Villa, though. I know it came from the penalty spot, which kind of messed up my predictions, Eric, which I'm not going to go into. We'll talk about that in a bit, actually. But game in general, Rod, bit bitty, bit nasty, bit snidey, but again, a good game of football.
Yeah, it was a bit scrappy. I was dipping in and out of it, but Jack Grealish, every time I turned it on, he seemed to be on the ball, making things happen or getting fouled, or Mike Dean was trigger happy card. It was Mike Dean, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So the two sending off, I think there was two, wasn't there? The Villa, and then the Wolves had one late on.
No, I think it was just one Villa player, actually. No, it was Moutinho as well. Yeah, you're right.
Moutinho late on. Yeah, so Villa did well really to come our way with a 1-0 win, because there was at least 10 men for half an hour. But every time I watch Villa, I'm just so impressed with Jack Grealish, because he can do everything. So, but yeah, it was a good win because as we know, it's a difficult place to go there, and Wolves are a decent side. Obviously, they're missing the centre forward, though. The quicker he gets back playing, now he's back. He's back home. He's back well. The quicker you get him back, the better.
I agree, mate. And Steve, we spoke about Connor Cody last week after Liverpool absolutely annihilated Wolverhampton Wanderers. I keep calling them Wolverhampton Wanderers. They're Wolves to me. They're Wolves, for crying out loud. But I'm pretty sure Nuno will be very, very concerned with the amount of opportunities Aston Villa had, because they're getting in behind their fullbacks every single time. And it's almost as if this 3-5-2 system that they've completely got rid of, they need to bring it back as soon as possible.
I agree with you. It's like a cross identity now. There'll have obviously been a reason for them to change the shape. I'll always support Connor from the times that I spent coaching him. But I did really think that, under a little bit more pressure now in a back four, his communication skills are brilliant. His brain, his positional sense, brilliant. His passing, brilliant. Really that good. His character, brilliant. But straight away, you're engaging now and you're almost man-marking as opposed to being a spare defender. I think he can handle that. But my biggest concern is that Wolves' best player coming out from the back now doesn't have much time or any time on the ball, which changes the face of their performance. I agree with you. I think, the manager had earned the right to look at his players and his injured talisman and think, I might need to change the identity of the team, change the formation. He's brave to do that and brave to change back, but more sensible to change back, I think, because that's where he's had success. Players make systems rather than systems make players. So he'll have to look at what he's got, and I think he'll have to look at what brings most points on the board, and I think he'll have to bring it back into line and reset the Wolves project, and I think he will do that. But they've played some football over the last 18 months with Europa campaigns and and as other teams have, but I'm not sure that club are used to it. If it's City, United, Tottenham now, Chelsea wheeling out different players for Champions League games, they've got the budget to have two squads. You get the feeling that Wolves have got a squad, maybe a squad and a quarter. They've not got two squads like the other big clubs. So they're stretched now, probably feeling some fatigue. Talisman out for a hell of a long time. Best player sold to Liverpool. It's a real challenge for them now, and I think he just needs to go back to, everyone would say, go back to basics, go back to Wolves basics and just do what they used to do good and just get back some points on the board.
Well, Steve, I'm not going to pretend that I've been watching Wolves under Nuno week in, week out, but I've never seen them before this season play 4 at the back.
No.
So do you think they're not getting results? Because I know they beat Arsenal a couple of weeks ago. Everyone beats Arsenal at the moment, apart from United. But, is it because these players are starting to get used to a new system that they're struggling so much?
Yeah.
Or is it a combination of a lot of things, like Jota leaving, like with the injury and
That's it. That we've covered it. Yeah, Jota leaving, huge. Jimenez out for 8 weeks with a shattering injury, huge. Fatigue, exhaustion, a small squad, talented. Yes, there's been money spent on it, but like I say, in terms of numbers, probably a pool of about 16 players that you could really call upon, whereas the other teams, as I've just mentioned, can call upon 24 players and an academy. I'm not suggesting that Wolves aren't trying with their academy, but there aren't that many young players that come through their system in support. So I think there's been a base of about 16 players that have been going toe-to-toe with all these teams across Europe in the Europa League and all these Premier League giants. And I just think now it's just like fingers in the dam a little bit at the moment, that they're just plugging one hole and something sprouting somewhere else. But I think they'll sort it because he appears to be an outstanding coach that the players love. And, you do recognise that some players, you think he doesn't like the manager in. That group of players appear to love the manager. And I'm sure they'll get it right. Not get it right and elevate Stel, but they'll get it right and settle. And they won't plummet or be like I'll use Bournemouth as the example of last year. They won't go through the winter past Christmas and then nosedive to relegation. It won't be that.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. Eric Neal, Chelsea went to Goodison Park and lost. No Christian Pulisic, though. You must be fuming.
Well, no, actually, I love nothing more as an American supporter than when Chelsea play poorly and Pulisic's not in the squad. It's like it's the best thing ever, because as soon as he comes back and then they have a good performance, then it's easy. You're like, oh, look, he's making all the difference. So I don't know. I go back and forth. Dave and I, my co-host, are very, very concerned about Christian Pulisic. He's got all the talent in the world, but I don't know if he's cut out for the Premier League physically. I can't remember. He came in when he was 17 at Dortmund and, was in Champions League and doing all of these things, but he's not had one season in his professional career where he made it through the entire season without some sort of extended layoff. So it really, really is concerning. I mean, I think Lampard probably did the right thing, resting him a little bit, especially because they're down, 2 wingers already at the moment. But, I mean, Chelsea should have had more than enough to win that match. I don't know what happened.
Well, from what I saw, it was a very, very disjointed Chelsea, and Kai Havertz, who came in, big price tag, flattered to deceive. I think he was taken off. Timo Werner is struggling, which I'm very, very surprised about, because I expected big things from this guy. Granted, defensively, Chelsea have been sound over the past few weeks, especially since bringing in the new goalkeeper. But it's almost as if Everton were getting in behind the fullbacks every single time. And Ben Chilwell, he was lucky not to concede a penalty in the second half.
Well, I mean, Havertz got played on the wing, right? I mean, that tells you everything you need. That's not his best position or where he's going to thrive. And if you've got someone who's already struggling to adapt, I mean, I know you're kind of, forced into certain things as a manager, depending on injuries and things like that. But I mean, you could tell very early on that wasn't working. And I felt like Frank was sort of being stubborn in that way, where he didn't just recognize it and do something about it.
Yeah. Rod, do you think Lampard is trying to shoehorn certain players that he's brought in? Because it just seems to me that players like Kai Havertz, who again came with a big, big reputation from the Bundesliga, okay, he hasn't hit the ground running. I don't think it's fair to expect him to hit the ground running. But with the fee that he commanded, with the levels of expectancy, especially being a Chelsea player, you're not playing for a Burnley or a smaller team. What is Lampard's long-term plan? I'm not slating the guy because I think he's done very well given the circumstances the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, I think it's a number of things at the minute. You know, Everton are not a bad side at home. You know, Chelsea have had a lot of games recently and a lot of new additions, which takes time to gel. And maybe he's just got too much to choose from, and he don't know what really. He's still fighting for his best team, or you know, sometimes, like I say, he's played a lot of games. I played in the week, and who's fit, who's ready to go, and you know, like I say, Everton, I know most they're a decent side, but yeah, it's just trying to get that consistency. But when you bring in that amount of players, it's difficult to get a full assessment of them in, you know, what's it been, a few months. Well, it's still going to take time, but you know, it helps by other teams around them dropping, so it's not too bad for them.
Absolutely. And Steve, another loss for Sheffield United today. Absolutely pounded at Southampton. But you know, you and I were going back and forth on WhatsApp earlier, and I took a screenshot of how high Sheffield United's defensive line was. But Kyle Walker-Peters was completely alone, acres of space at the top of the screen. I'm thinking, everyone is too busy looking at the ball. Just follow the man, because if he gets in behind you, you're screwed.
Yeah, and I think Chris Wilder has admitted today that his team gave everything but weren't unlucky. They were just beaten by a team in form at Southampton, and he is struggling with the identity of his own team. And you just have a couple of dices and you just hope that you roll out double six. Still missing O'Connell. Can't get the left centre-back position right. Noticed that he praised a young lad who was in Manchester City's academy, struggled at Oldham on loan. He's been waiting for a chance. He gave him some praise last week, Kean Bryan, but he wasn't in the squad today, so somebody else had to go at left centre-back. Ampadu was back in the team. Billy Sharp was back in the team. And when you just lose every game, you just hope it's your day by just doing something a little bit different, and you stumble across something and one of the lads will just step up for you and do something. But whatever he's picking at the moment, albeit always in the same formation, it's always seems to be the same result at the end of the game, albeit there's been a few fixtures recently that have been unlucky in defeat. This one obviously wasn't.
That's right. And Ralph Hasenhüttl, this time last year, people talking about him getting sacked. They got spanked by Leicester. Was it 9-0 at home in October 2019? And now Southampton, 4th in the table, mate. Unbelievable.
Yeah, you've got to give praise for the people above at Southampton, because you know some owners might have pushed the panic button. You know, when you get beat 9-0, you know you've got to ask questions within your players. But obviously, it was a one-off. He knew his players. You know, it was a good reaction after that result, and yeah, they're just going from strength to strength. It just helps when there's so much of a help when you've got a player who's a decent striker and he's sticking the ball in the back of the net, because you know Danny Ings, you know he's done it before for Burnley. He's obviously he got his big move to Liverpool. He obviously picked up a few injuries and it didn't work out for him, but now he seems to hit the ground running at Southampton. And you know Southampton they've got Dave Prowse, what's his name, Prowse Ward.
Prowse, yeah.
They've got a few good players, so. Yeah, and he's obviously proven to be an astute manager and a good one at that.
I think it just shows how much the team is working for him, that Højbjerg was sold in the summer, and yet players like Romeu, Ward-Prowse, Nathan Redmond, even Theo Walcott, they're all putting in shifts. I've noticed their work rate has increased dramatically over the past few months, especially since they went through a bit of a slow start to the season. But look, I don't think it's going to continue. I don't think they're going to be in the top 4. But to be fair, at this moment in time, Southampton fans don't give a shit at the moment, do they?
No, they don't. It's you know, it's kind of like the opposite to Newcastle. You know, as long as they're not getting a relegation fight.
Don't get Eric started. Don't get him started.
You know, as long as they don't get relegated, Southampton are happy. But you know. They are, like we said, they've got a good manager there, and they've got some good players. And with Danny Ings, they've got a lad who will score 15 to 25 goals, and that's gold in the Premier League.
Lads, I tell you what I've spotted about Southampton only today, so it's fresh. Every player you've just mentioned there, I would wheel out the same players at the same time. Everything Rhodri said, Ings, Walcott, Redmond, Ward-Prowse, but there's two players that I noticed today. They do the stuff for Southampton every week. They never get a mention. One's the goalkeeper, McCarthy, who didn't play in that hammering of Leicester by Leicester last year. And Bertrand, despite him playing in a Champions League final, and it looked like he could have an England career of lots of caps and play for one of the top three teams in the Premier League, Bertrand at left back and McCarthy in goal are excellent almost every week for Southampton in terms of consistency. Just something I picked up on today.
There was one moment where Danny Ings has kind of backheeled the ball and he's taking it past the central defender. And I see Bertrand making that overlap. I'm thinking, crikey, if he put a bit more weight on that flick, it'd have gone straight to Bertrand and he could have whipped it across the face of the goal. But his movement off the ball is brilliant. For a fullback as well.
He looks like a real team player.
You know what they've got as well with Ward-Prowse? He's a very good free kick taker, anywhere around the box, crosses. And they've got some decent centre halves who get on the end of it, like one did today. So in Ward-Prowse, you don't want to give any, soft free kicks anywhere around the box, outside, on the side, because he's got a really good delivery and a real threat.
Yeah, but going back to what Steve said about academy players being a bit soft, Ward-Prowse isn't. He's not afraid to get stuck in as well.
Well, these are. This is, you can name a handful out of thousands. I think Des is talking about the math there. Yeah, you're going to get one or two that's got a bit of spunk about them. That's just normal. I'm sure that you see that with the young Chelsea kid, Billy Gilmore. He's got a bit of spunk about him as well. So you're going to get a few of them. But in the masses, I think Des is right in what he said.
There you go. Eric, Leicester absolutely spanked Brighton today. Jamie Vardy again on the score sheet, and 2 for James Maddison. Been an up and down season for Leicester City, but I think they're the only team that played in Europe during the week that won at the weekend.
Yeah, they've just been so consistent. I mean, Brendan Rodgers, I think, doesn't get enough credit for what he's been able to do with them. I mean, I feel
Steve loves him. Steve loves him. He absolutely loves Brendan.
I think they bottled it a little bit towards the end of, Project Restart last year, and where it looked like it was inevitable they were going to make the top 4 and went on just a really bad run and came up short. And then, have had a couple patches this season where performances didn't look that great. But if you look at, the entire time that he's been there, I don't ever see them winning the league again. I feel like that was a perfect storm of things that had to happen. And I still to this day say it's the greatest team sports achievement in history of any sport, Leicester winning the Premier League. I don't care if it was a down season for the top sides. I don't care, if Spurs threw it away at the end. For them to do that over 38 matches was just incredible. But I love the way they play. They have an identity. All of these players are not guys that you would think are going to get snapped up by the top sides. They get them here and there. And, you see people like Chilwell moves on to Chelsea or whatever, but they have that identity. They have that togetherness, and you can tell it bothers them when they lose, going back to, Steve's point. I think there are certain teams and certain managers that kind of still have that. And maybe it's not the top sides, because the top sides have, all of these prima donna players that have been coddled their whole careers. And maybe it's when you get that level down where maybe you do end up having people that have that fire and that drive. I don't know. It's a combination of the management and that the mentality of the players, I think, that have gotten them that as far as they've gone.
Yeah, I guess if the team buys into the manager's philosophy, there's that word which I absolutely hate using, but if they buy into his ideals, then of course they're going to be relatively successful. But Rod, let's talk about West Ham beating Leeds United the other day. Another game where there's no fans in the stadium, and David Moyes gets a win against Bielsa. The anti-football beats the what shall we call him? The magician, or he's lauded as some kind of magic man, is Bielsa, isn't he?
Yeah, they're on a good run at the minute, West Ham, and it's a good result for him because, they are one of the more enjoyable teams to watch, Leeds, and it's a good result anytime you beat Leeds because they'll give you a good game, no matter who you are. So yeah, West Ham on a good run at the minute, and David Moyes is obviously when he was off with COVID and Alan Irvine took over, he was questioning, but obviously when David Moyes has come back, he's continued that. So obviously, he's a good coach, an experienced coach, and it's not the most enjoyable teams to watch, but it's a result business, and he does get results, and he is doing at the minute.
Steve said something interesting last week about Eric Dyer, how he doesn't like space, and what I noticed about West Ham is that they did not give Leeds an inch of space. Even when there were runners, they get tight to them or they push up, let them stray offside. It was a very, very intelligent system that he laid out. And obviously the 2 goals that they scored, one of them from a set piece of Bonner's header, the winner at the end, Leeds couldn't do anything about it. But moving on to Leeds, Steve, again, you and I were having this discussion, and I don't think you watched the game, to be fair. I didn't watch it live anyway, but I don't know if you saw the highlights as well. But Leeds appear to struggle when Bamford isn't on song. And that's got to be a concern because they've spent quite a bit of money. They've got a lot of skillful, tricky players. But all I saw the other night were players making runs and the defenders just not putting the balls over the top for them.
Yeah, I can see that. I think they are operating at the moment and they're relying so much on Bamford in the last third to get goals. He's got to be a link man. He's got to try and tire centre-halves out. He's got to try and show for the balls. He's got to press. He's got to get on the end of stuff. He's got to assist. So Patrick Bamford should be nominated to be in a squad of the year at the moment for what he's doing, for a talisman for his team. So he's carrying the weight of that football club in the last third pretty much on his shoulders. The high energy. I wonder if they're putting that much into the game that will it blow up? Not yet, but possibly around the Christmas period, the second round of games will be interesting. Will they strengthen in January? Calvin Phillips, I think he's excellent. I think he's really growing on me. A bit like Declan Rice, I couldn't see it at first, but the more you see, the more you like. I certainly feel like that with Phillips. And Leeds are still in the potential stage, although I think they're absolutely maxed out with effort and they play at such speed sometimes that their quality to go as what you're saying, Stel, of picking a man out, a perfect pass, a cute bit of play, a bit of patience. I think they play that fast and that hard that at times there are things that are going to be a struggle as a consequence, albeit playing like that has got them promotion and got them off to a good start in the Premier League.
Do you think Leeds are going to spend in January, mate? Because when you look at their options defensively, it's not great. From set pieces, they're susceptible to errors, as we saw with West Ham's winner. Again, going forward, while they've got a lot of creative players, they still don't have that striker that can get them 15, 20 goals in the season. Yeah. Granted, that there aren't that many teams that possess that kind of striker. But as we saw with Callum Wilson at Bournemouth, he was getting in among the goals. And he earned a move to Newcastle. Do Leeds have that player there?
No, they need it. They need support to go with Bamford. Although Bamford, I think, was brought off on Friday night, wasn't he?
That's right.
He'll be annoyed with that because he'll be trying to tire these centre halves out and centre forwards. Rhodri will tell you, you're likely to get goals in the last 20 minutes of a game than the first over a course of a season. That's where mistakes are there. That's where gaps are there. And you've worked so hard to tire centre-halves out and slow them down that you want them chances, but they end up going to an impact sub. A bit like Dwight Gale yesterday, but you've still got to put it in the back of the net. I like Cooper at the back, but I remember him at Chesterfield. He was playing at Chesterfield, and you get the feeling at the moment he's absolutely maxed out playing at the level, and there's nothing wrong with that. But how long can you survive being absolutely maxed out? So I'm expecting a few cracks in Leeds if they don't strengthen. Like I say, possibly someone at the back. The goalkeeper seems fine, and someone to go with Bamford, or even dare I suggest it, he probably wouldn't be happy if he's listening, to start the odd game. for Bamford to come on in the last 10 minutes himself and get those poachers goals, because he's going to be on vapours soon. Bamford is putting that much legwork into the project, and he gets all his goals as a reward. But it's hard to do that for 40 games in the Premier League for a promoted team.
All right, I'll put this question to all three of you then. Have Leeds United been sussed? Have teams worked out how to play against them now? We noticed with Sheffield United, okay, Project Restart wasn't great for them, but they were getting good guns. And afterwards, we saw what happened, that goal not given against Aston Villa, etc., and it kind of snowballed out of control. But at least teams couldn't quite figure out how to play against them. With Leeds United, for me, it just seems like they're very, very predictable in their style of play, their patterns. And it's almost as if, dare I say it, Bielsa doesn't have a plan B.
Well, that could come with the recruitment as well, Stel, but I don't think there's any manager in the country that would ever be offended about being sussed. If I was coaching a team, I'd be proud if someone had me sussed, someone studied me and the team and the plans and how we play and our patterns, and that's respect. I mean, like, you've sussed Leeds yourself, so they're easy to suss. It's doing something about it it's beating them. You can work out how a team can play, but it's beating them that's the hard thing. It's doing something about it. So I think Premier League now with the analysts, the exposure, the scouting, the way you watch games, I think everybody's got everybody else sussed. It's just like I say, what you do to counter it. And I agree with what you say. I think Leeds will never be outran in a game, so they've got that in their favour. Only if they tire, they need to start enjoying larger spells of possession. But they do now need to add to their identity with better players via recruitment to either add competition, rotate, or, as you say, deliver a plan B, because they don't appear to have that. But the plan A has been good enough up to this point. Over to the lads.
Well, you said that I've sussed Leeds United. I wouldn't want to coach a team against Bielsa. I don't have any curtains in my bathroom. I don't want an old man with binoculars looking in. Rod, have Leeds been sussed?
It's just like Stel says, yes, there's obviously people are going to study them and are going to try and work them out, but you still got to implement that, and you still got to, do the coaching and the players to put the effort and the work in, because no one's going to outwork Leeds, like you said. So, yeah, people are going to suss them. They're going to have they have to. This is the Premier League. And the way Leeds started, people, like I say, it's the Premier League. People are going to catch on to them, and they need to strengthen, because the way they play, it's a tough, long season. All right, the Championship is tough. The Premier League a different kind of level tough. So yeah, they need to recruit well, but you've got to weigh it up. Are they going to stay up? Yes, they are. So they're not going to not get paid next year. So the recruitment's got to be right. They're not going to just bring in someone in willy-nilly. They've got to bring in someone that fits the system and freshens the squad up.
Eric, are Leeds predictable, my friend?
I kind of thought at one point possibly, but part of me, I watched the Leeds documentary of the last two seasons where they went in depth into their struggle to get back to the Premier League after all those seasons, and they had a couple patches in each of the last two seasons in the Championship where almost the same exact thing happened, and people at the time were almost asking the same exact question. Have they been figured out? Did people say, okay, now we know how to play against them? And it seemed less that they were being figured out, and more just the pieces weren't fitting together properly at the time. There were either injuries or players just weren't finishing the chances that they created or whatever. And each time, though, they were able to overcome it and get back to being themselves. I mean, I don't see him ever changing regardless if they figured him out. I mean, if you look at Pep at City, they're doing all of the things they've always done. You could almost make the same case that people have kind of just figured out how to make them pass side to side for 90 minutes. But I think if they have any hope of keeping Bielsa, he rarely goes over 3 years at any of the clubs he's ever managed. You're going to have to do something big in January to show him we want you to stay. We trust what you're doing, and give him something, because I'm not sure even that's going to be enough to have him stick around. I feel like it may not be that it's gone stale or people have figured him out. I think he may just be tired of the project after 3 years.
Well, do you know what? We spoke to a Leeds United fan beginning of the season. He said, Bielsa lives in a flat above a little supermarket in Leeds, and he loves going into town and going to the local pub, and he really loves the culture and the people, and he seems very much at home. So I don't think he's the kind of manager that will be swayed to go to Spain or Italy. I mean, he's done Italy, hasn't he? And he didn't last too long out there. I think it's 2 days at Lazio, something along those lines. So I think he's very settled at Leeds United, but he's a very demanding head coach, and he's constantly working on that training ground to get the best out of his players. And granted, he has done that to some extent. But on the flip side, that performance against West Ham, okay, West Ham have had a good season, granted, but it didn't fill me with much confidence about, Leeds United's long-term future in the Premier League. That being said, stranger things have happened, and, I've been bitten on the arse many times. So,
what you've got to think, Stel, is, there's a lot, there's at least 3 or 4 teams that are worse, very, very bad than Leeds United. Look at Sheffield United, did 1 point. Burnley got a good win today, but they've not been great.
No, listen, I don't think Leeds are going to go down at all. Don't get me wrong. But
it's difficult for a coach as well to get your players to man that week in, week out, year after year after year. You have to bring in the right players to get that kind of commitment and work rate out of your players.
Rhodri, there can't be everybody could say that about their club, but there can't be a set of supporters more excited to get back into football stadiums than the Leeds United mob. Having not really been in the Premier League for so long, Fulham have been in and out of it, West Brom have been in and out of it, everybody else has been in it and stayed in it. For them to come back, whilst we all want to go back supporting our teams, but to get whatever it is there, 45,000 at Ellen Road, I can't believe there's a set of supporters that can't wait to get back more than them. I can't have it.
Yeah,
Steve, you're right too, and to think they missed the joy of being there the day that they got promoted back as well. 15 years in the wilderness, and then not being able to be there. You're right. They have to be number one.
They will make up for it when they get back.
Yeah.
There we go. Right, let's wrap the show up with a comedy section. Arsenal losing at home to Burnley. Goal scorer. Aubameyang scored the goal. I've heard of Wank-Anda, but not Wank-Anda. That was a great header, wasn't it? I mean, he didn't get the mask out or anything. I think that's his first goal in open play this season. It was in the wrong end. Joking aside, Eric, that was a bad performance, wasn't it? Absolutely terrible from Arsenal.
Yeah, I keep saying, Dave and I go over this every week, where I keep saying, they're on a bad run. I believe in what Arteta's doing. The fact that he's won a couple things recently. He's got the FA Cup, the Community Shield.
Credit in the bank, that old chestnut. Eh?
So it was like, but he has a philosophy. He's Pep Jr. He knows what he's trying to do. The longer this goes on, though, the doubt starts to creep in. At what point do you say, he's just lost the dressing room, or I can't figure it out. But I've watched almost every week. I watch their matches, and it's not like it looks like they've quit or they're not trying to execute what he's coached them to do. It just for some reason isn't working, and they can't score to save their life. I mean, that's comical. I think you're right. I don't think he's scored a goal since Aubameyang since he signed a new contract. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, he got one against United, which was a penalty, but yeah, it's tragic the way it's going on at the moment at Arsenal, because this new manager came in full of ideas. There was a fanfare. A lot of people wanted him because he was Guardiola's number 2, and they expected that free-flowing football that Man City were producing. And they were even saying, he was the brains behind everything. He was the guy that was giving Guardiola that extra shot in the arm, so to speak. And now all I'm hearing is Arteta out. He's got his favourites. Hector Bellerin is his love child because he took him in when he was living in London. And Bellerin joined Arsenal as a teenager and he lived with Arteta and his wife for a bit. Lacazette is coming under criticism when he signed for Arsenal. He was going to be better than Morata and Lukaku. Aubameyang, they wanted him to sign a new contract. They got their wish. There you go. This is what's happened with him. But the one thing I will say, I believe that he's lost a lot of that dressing room. And I showed you that message, Steve. It was an image that was on Instagram. It was a little conversation between Pepe, Guendouzi, and Saliba. And they were basically saying, this guy, he's not playing us or something along those lines. I can't remember word for word that they put, but they were really doing subliminal messages or little digs at Arteta, and Pepe kind of stepped in to, diffuse the situation a little bit, saying you guys are doing a lot of talking and put a little laughing emoji. But that's not a good sign, is it, Steve? Let's be honest.
No, it's not. He doesn't seem like, I thought he was getting the fans, the boardroom, the footballers all on the same page. The Wembley victories allowed you to think that, so it was fair. But there's too much flakiness coming out of the place. Like I say, I've seen the social media activity of some players. I've seen them on BBC One, 3 young lads doing a gangster rap quiz. Now, I would rather it have been football, but my better preference would be don't do it at all. They just look daft. And it's just what Roy Keane has said for so many years. There's a softness about them. There's a bit of bullshit about them, and you just can't take them serious. And what I'm noticing now, certainly I watched the game today, and this is how I saw it. I think of West Ham and David Moyes, and the first thing they try and do in their setup is to set up and not be beaten in the game and then try and win it. So they have that identity. I think of Burnley, 2 banks of 4, 4-4-2, try and stay in the game, keep it tight, but the emphasis is on first defend, get that clean sheet, go from there. And it's come off from today. I look at Arsenal, they don't look like they've got any guard. They look like they're a boxer that goes into a fight without ever putting his gloves over his face. So they are actually trying to win the game, which is admirable. But the players they've got in personnel are not good enough to win Premier League matches. So you've basically got no guard at the back, no rear guard and no safety and no block. And you've got nothing going forward, which thrills you and gives you hope of winning a game. So you put the two together, you're 5th from bottom of the Premier League for a reason.
Yeah, well, see, the thing is, prior to Xhaka sending off, which we'll touch on in just a moment, Arsenal were on the ascendancy, weren't they? First half was quite laboured and nothing really happened. But second half, first 5 minutes, they were getting in behind Burnley. They were creating a few half chances. They looked quite threatening. Saka had a shot. I think Aubameyang had a shot that was deflected wide. And then Granit Xhaka, in a moment of madness, which is becoming more and more frequent with him, he decides to basically grab a Burnley player by the throat and get sent off, which was absolutely ludicrous. And then later on, El Neni was fortunate to stay on the pitch for shoving a defender in the face when a penalty probably should have been given. Rod, Steve mentioned Roy Keane saying about how flaky Arsenal are, but I think that's their 7th red card under Arteta now.
Yeah, well, it just proves what you said at the start of what you said is the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. There's just no discipline, and that's obviously leaking out. If you grab someone by the throat, you're gonna get sent off. I'm pretty sure he knows that, and just basically let his team down. Let his team down, let his manager down, and it's just we were talking 6 weeks ago when they played us off the park. All right, we were bad, but they looked half decent, and from then on, they just absolutely fell off a cliff. And it's just it's comical for us because the content that comes out of the social media side, because there are a lot of clowns on that side. But yeah, he's got a big, massive job there, and it's, will he get time? Because we're already with the knives out saying Arteta out. Some of them even before even even got the job was they wanted him out before he even come in. So yeah, it's just, you know, fifth from bottom. It's not good for Arsenal. You know, you said there that yes, they did put them under pressure, but you know, it's Arsenal football playing at home against Burnley. We're struggling. You expect them to put them under pressure. You know, it's a soft goal to give away. You know, you touched on the striker who signed a big contract and hasn't scored a goal since. From before he signed the contract, he was the best player, one of the best players in the Premier League. So, you know, that needs to be looked at as well, because obviously his attitude's not right. Because, you know, once you get a big contract, then you think, right, I'm buzzing. You'd be flying, but he's just gone the other way. So that just proves the mentality of him. So they seem to have a few of them around the club, and yeah, it's like Roy Keane said, like you touched on, they are soft-scented. But if you've got no discipline in the club, and you've got people like that, you're letting you down, and you've got no chance.
Why is Aubameyang even the captain? Because for me, it's like, well, when it's going well for him, he's on cloud nine, and you know, he's doing all the dancing, all that kind of stuff, and putting in stellar performances. But right now, he's hit rock bottom, and yet he's still got that captain's armband. He's skulking around the pitch. He's not working as hard as he used to. And granted, it's a confidence thing, and I don't expect him to drag the club out of the mire. But at the same time, when you look at all the captains that Arsenal had over the years, your Vieiras, your Tony Adamses, etc., they were leaders, weren't they? And it goes back to what we said before. There aren't any leaders. So,
well, no, it's when you mentioned it shouldn't be in the same name, in the same sentence, in the same breath as them captains. They're just not. They're just chalk and cheese. These people would die for the club and just give everything to the club. Aubameyang, he didn't even talk. So why would you give him the captaincy? It's a bizarre one. I don't know why you'd give a centre forward, left midfield, whatever he is, the captaincy anyway. Alan Shearer, yeah, you know, he's been about. You give him the captaincy. He's from Newcastle. People like that, you can understand it. Leaders, absolute leaders. But Aubameyang, you know, it's not looking well for the manager when he's making decisions like that. And you know, we were praising him 6 weeks ago, but you know, football can turn in these times, and you know, if he doesn't get it right, you know, the fifth from bottom, it's Arsenal Football Club, so you've got to get it right quick, or you know, there'll be a change there again. Then there's bigger problems, and you know, you get the ones that are slagging the manager off, who are causing problems in the dressing room. They'll be brought back into the fold, and then there's another set of problems, and it's just a circle that's going round and round about. So they need to get it right, and they need to get it right quick, because they're in deep trouble. Like I say, the fifth and bottom. It's Arsenal.
well, this is it. But it goes back to what we said, probably Wenger's last 2 seasons at the club. There's so much deadwood there that it's a huge job. So whoever comes in, it's all about not just balancing the books, but also getting rid of players that really shouldn't be at the club and bringing fresh legs. The problem is,
Stel, they're bringing the same. They need to get dead wood out. They just paid £72 million for like what, a £20 million player.
well, there you go. So
you know, the recruitment as well. It's upstairs. You know, it's the same as the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer thing. Yes, he's been given money, but has he been given the players that he really wanted? Same with Jose Mourinho. They're just giving players that, you know, that he really want. Not really good enough.
Cedric going to do anything for Arsenal as a right back? Cedric, it's baffling. It's absolutely baffling why they brought him in. It's baffling to me why they brought in David Luiz. It's baffling why they brought in Willian. You know, changing the manager isn't going to solve anything, because effectively whoever comes in is going to be lumbered with the same crop of shit that the previous manager had.
Well, we touched on it before. The Southampton manager, you know, they kept the faith even though they had a bad run of results, and you're reaping the rewards of that. You know, you can't change a club round the size of Arsenal and the amount of crap we were in. It's expected to do in a year, 2 years. It's a 3-year plan, but it's, you know, you've got to still be getting results in that time frame, because you're at a club like Arsenal Football Club where, you know, the fans demand it, and it's a big club, so you can't be, you know, in in that transitional period and be fifth from bottom and just continue on in that. It's just not feasible for a club at the stature of Arsenal Football Club.
Okay. One question for you guys before we talk about Burnley very quickly. How long has Arteta got, Rod?
It just depends on the results. If the results continue, I don't think he'll last the new year. Because you're going to play from the new year now. They're going to play at least 5 or 6 games, 4, 5 or 6 games for the Christmas period. They've got a quarter final with City. No, they could go out of that in the Carling Cup. So it's a big month, and I hope they don't, because like I say, he needs to be given time. And he's what I've seen, he's a good coach, but when you've got bad players and you've got bad personnel letting you down, what are you supposed to do?
Okay, Eric.
Yeah, I've been sat here the whole time trying to think. Like, normally with any club, the first thing, if you say captain, like there's somebody on that squad that pops on your mind and you're like, oh, that's the person. I can't think of one on Arsenal. And because of that, and I think the board, they probably do know that he's got a mess to clean up. I think they'll probably give him something. I don't know what it is in January, unless it goes, to Rhodri's point, where they lose every match until the new year, which could be where they have to pull the plug. Mm-hmm. I think they'll let him have a window in January. And as long as they're not about to be relegated, they'll probably let him finish out the year. And if things have stabilized and look better, I think, he may get another go at it. But I mean, if it can't continue on the way it is much longer.
We've got Southampton at home on Wednesday. Then they have Everton away on Saturday, followed by the quarterfinal of the Carabao Cup against City, and then Chelsea on Boxing Day.
So all
right,
them
you're
games,
right. You're right, Rhodri.
All them games are losable, aren't they?
Never mind. You're right. He's sacked.
Ouch.
But for me, it'd be a wrong decision to get rid of him, because you've got to hold your nerve. But with the clown fan base that the Sunderland's got and the noise that they make,
Yeah, it's the best viewing ever. If you need a laugh, man, just watch that Arsenal fan TV.
Mate. Steve, when does Arteta get sacked then? Is it after Southampton, Everton, City, or Chelsea? Or even Brighton on the 29th?
Similar to what the lad said, I don't know how that club operates, but if the hierarchy behind the scenes in recruitment sign the players, then I think he stays and he'll be expected to do better with his current lot and then maybe some that they sign. If Arteta, as the manager, as you would hope, is the one that signs the players, then they've got 3 weeks to decide before January whether he's the man to spend their money or not. So I don't know, like I say, I don't know who chooses the players in big football clubs these days. Supposedly there'll be like a technical board. Of course, the manager would sit on that. I'm tempted to think that he would get the Christmas period and they should have some transfer identity of some players lined up in terms of recruitment to help the manager in the initial part of January and obviously the back end of this month. So I think they'll stick with him for Christmas and New Year. I do think they'll get some new players. I'm not confident, like Rhodri says, that he gets to February.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm just going to end this bit on what I said when he first got the job. Arsenal need to back him. They need to back him. And whether it be bringing in players that he wants or getting rid of players that he doesn't want. He's slowly doing that with Ozil, with Guendouzi. Saliba obviously hasn't kicked much of a ball anyway. But unfortunately, it's a results business. And with the pressure of the social media lot, the Arsenal fan TV lot, these other YouTubers that constantly get on the manager's back, I think he's lucky that there's no fans in the stadium, because they would have made it very, very hostile for him, because they're very, very impatient. That being said, I don't know if Kroenke is going to turn around and say, right, we need to get rid of him, because there is a long-term project there with Mikel Arteta. Granted, we're not seeing it right now, but we saw it last season, the back end of last season, how well he did. So going back to what I said to Eric before, there is credit in the bank. I think they need to stick with him. I really do, because you can't keep chopping and changing it. Because the problem are the 11 players on the pitch or the 24 in the squad. And if he's not able to get rid of certain players, then they can't kick on. So that's just my thought.
There were fans in there, Stel. They were booing at the end. Some of them even left before the end.
Yeah, well, less said about them, the better, I think. Well, they didn't really make much noise anyway till the end when they lost. I didn't hear anything.
Well, exactly the difference between Crystal Palace, the noise there, and the Fulham noise there. That the Arsenal fans.
I thought the same. I thought exactly that. Chelsea made some noise. Tottenham made some noise, but that was a weird atmosphere I was picking up on the telly. They mentioned like a humming noise that was coming out, Rod, that was part of the noise in the stadium, but it certainly didn't add to the experience.
No,
those are the trains.
I think that the ground's so big and they spread them out all the way round.
Yeah,
you don't get that. No, with the like you talk about before, the Craven Cottage or the Crystal Palace and Sellers Park, them closing ground when you get the big ground. Mind you, though, Tottenham's a big ground and they made some noise. So
yeah,
very true. One more thing, gents. Burnley. Great result from first win at Arsenal since 1974. And I think that's the first time that they've gone ahead in a game this season in the league. Rod, Kabaddi FC, what a result. And they didn't even do it without being physical. They actually outsmarted them.
Well, like I think Stes touched on it before. You know what you're going to get from Burnley. 4-4-2. Work hard, solid team. Yes, they've got a bit of a sprinkle with Neal, but not much flair. But they're going to give you an honest performance, and it's a great win for them. Because they're not had a great start, but yeah, it's a great win for them. A soft goal, like I said, for Arsenal to concede. But yeah, it's a good win for Burnley, and a happy win down the M1 for them.
There you go, Steve. Want to add to that?
No, Ben Mee 4 games back into a recovery from a rare injury after 10 years at the club, fairly injury-free, but he's got his legs back. Goalkeeper's getting better, making saves, keeping the game at 0-0 to give them a chance. James Tarkowski always plays better alongside Ben Mee, so they've got that centre-half pairing and goalkeeper behind it that can, like a bit of glue, if you like. Robbie Brady's come in the team to balance the team. You likely think that Chris Wood and Rhodri Giggs are likely to get singles. They're not going to go on big, massive row of bundles of goals, but they're not going to go on massive barren runs. They're going to just get edge along with singles. But the key player for me, he gets through 13, 14K, never gives the ball away, takes it off the back lads, hits the front players' feet, hits the channel for them to run into. And more than unsung now. I think he's brilliant. This Westwood in the middle of the pitch. I think he is absolutely superb. Just like Ward-Prowse has bounced for Southampton, but he's got the recognition and his name in the paper because he's got the set play delivery and the goals to go with it. So well done to him. Westwood is just a little bit more under the radar, but he is playing brilliantly for Burnley. And I believe alongside the manager, we've got similar personalities dragging the team to a safer place.
Brilliant. Eric, anything on Burnley? Well, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. If you think about the last few years, or several years, Dyche has, it's not pretty. It reminds you of Stoke-under-Pulis or something, right? Like the football. But you can't argue with what he's been able to do. Talk about turning straw into gold. He wished he had Arteta's problems. And for them to, with that win, to be pulled out of the relegation spots when, 9 matches in, I forget what they're on, like 2 points or something like that. To me, it's incredible just how he never panics. The team never panics. You always feel like somehow they're going to pull it out. I thought this year that it had gone too far and it was like the dream was finally over. They were going to be relegated. But now, here it is. You look at it, stabilized and probably not going to be relegated again. Credit to the manager on that.
100%, mate. 100%. Unfortunately, Rod has disappeared, but that's fine because we're going to wrap up the show anyway. Steve, thank you for jumping on, mate. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Stel. Thanks for having me, mate.
Thank you very much. And Eric, before I let you go, mate, give your podcast a plug and please talk about this wonderful app that's got me bloody hooked over the weekend.
All right, for sure. Yeah. So you can check us out. We're on, the App Store, iTunes, SoundCloud, anywhere you get your podcast. Two Rash Challenges, you can get the podcast. But we hooked up with the Perfect Picks app, and you download it on the Play Store or the App Store, and it's free, and it has all sorts of different sports. So if you're into other sports as well, you can get something there. But there's 2 contests a week where you can win £1,000, and all you're doing is predicting matches. If you download the app, go to the leagues and enter the code 5B9CB. Stel's in the league. You can join up, and it's good fun. It makes watching, Burnley Arsenal a little more entertaining than it normally would be. So you pick the matches, and if you get enough points, you can actually win money. And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is, to be honest. And the thing is, I used to do accumulators and put actual money down, but now I don't need to do it because this has kept me going, and I'm not losing as much money. But I'm not winning anything, but I'm not losing either. And you're right. I'm looking at these games. I'm thinking, shit, like, there's 10 minutes to go. It's 0-0. I'm going to get something. And then next thing you know, it's a last-minute penalty for Aston Villa, and you're fucked. But
right,
no,
or they don't give one. There was a match like 2 weeks ago. I was on a good run where I thought, I might actually be able to win something. They gave the penalty that would have given it the 2-2 draw, which would have given me the full amount of points. And then they went to VAR and pulled the penalty back. And so, it's incredible. I had an absolute mare this weekend, but it was loads of fun. So check out the
it's
app.
absolutely brilliant. 100%, mate, 100%. And I hope that our listeners will join your league, because it is good fun. It really is good fun. I think I'm going to try and get them to get onto ours as well. It'd be great. Eric, thanks for your time, man. Really appreciate it. And I don't know where the other two have disappeared to. I think Rod must have had the power cut, and Steve probably thought we finished recording. But anyway, we're on Twitter at Shoot Defense. We have an Instagram account. Oh, hang about. Rhodri wants to jump back in again. Let's have a look. Let's just add Rhodri in. Hello, Rhodri. Oh, 1 minute. Here we go. You disappeared. What happened? The power cut? Didn't put 10 people in.
The battery went.
The battery went. There you go. There you go. I thought the dog ate your phone, but no, we've done the last bits. We've done the goodbyes. Eric was just telling us about this app that he's using. It's a predictor app. Really, really good. Really good. But I'll tell you more about it because we're still recording.
All right. Okay.
Right. That's it for us for another week, guys. We'll be back next week, I think. So until next time, take care.
Yep. Thanks, gents.
Cheers, mate.